All right, over the last several years, police departments throughout our region, they've been outfitting their officers with body cameras, but they aren't yet a universal tool.
During the recent protests, activists have been calling for all police officers to be issued body cameras. NBC 10 investigative reporter Claudia Vargas takes a look at which departments have body cameras and how some are using them.
Black Lives Matter activist Asa Khalid says police can't police themselves. He and others believe that recording officers' every move with a body camera is the only way to keep them accountable.
They should be on during the pursuit, and they should be on during the interrogation. They should be on during the arrest.
For Khalid, the call for body cameras is personal. His cousin, Brandon Tate Brown, was shot and killed by Philadelphia police during a traffic stop in 2014. The shooting was ruled justified by police and the district attorney at the time. They said Tate Brown was reaching for a gun in his rental car. The only video of the incident comes from this surveillance camera.
If they had their body cameras on, we could have gotten the full story of what took place.
Philadelphia officers didn't get body cameras until 2016, and even today, only about 1/3 of the force has them. Philadelphia Police Union President John McNesby says body cameras have helped clear other officers accused of wrongdoing.
It's a good tool. It can be a good tool if it's utilized right.
Part of utilizing body cameras the right way, McNesby says, is releasing the entire video of an incident.
Release the whole footage, not just segments of what should be shown.
Public policy professor Andrea Headley has studied police body cameras in Florida and other parts of the country, not Philadelphia. She says the problem is not so much the selection of the video, but the availability of incidents being fully recorded.
The compliance and actually turning the camera on decreased over time.
Headley's study found that without routine checks and supervision, officers just weren't capturing every stop and arrest.
So if you know that there's no one necessarily going to be checking, it's not in the front of your mind to make sure that it's on.
The NBC 10 investigators surveyed 17 police departments in our region about their use of body cameras. 10 of the departments have a body camera program, and of those, SEPTA, Atlantic City, and Camden were the only ones that have all officers equipped with the devices. Departments that don't have body cameras range from small ones like Upper Darby Police to larger ones like Pennsylvania State Police. Most say they want the cameras, and some are even in the process of buying them. But for the most part, they said cost was the reason for the delay. The camera's price tag depends on model and other add-on fees such as storage, licensing, and warranty. Philadelphia, for example, spends $200 per camera. But with all the fees, each camera actually cost $712 annually. SEPTA Police Chief Thomas Nestel says cameras are worth the investment. SEPTA pays $300 per camera. They made a one-time payment of $100,000 to be able to handle video storage in-house. Since 2016, SEPTA's entire police force of 275 officers have had body cameras. At first, officers hated it.
2 years in, complete change. Officers are very positive about having the cameras, and we're able to disprove allegations of ignorance or unprofessional conduct based on the camera.
Even the chief wears a camera. He shared some of his body camera video from the recent protests.
A lot of improvement has to occur.
Nestel tells us discipline is key in having a body camera system that works.
You have to turn your camera on, and we do audits regularly to match the calls for service and whether or not we have video that matches it. And if we don't, we have a progressive discipline scale, and that officer is going to be subject to discipline.
Philadelphia officials say that by the end of next year, all patrol officers will have body cameras. But critics say before putting more cameras on the street, the department should make sure that police officers are using them properly. For the investigators, I'm Claudia Vargas, NBC 10 News.
Police body cameras, they're touted as a tool for accountability and for transparency, but the cameras and their use are only as good as the officers who wear them.
So what happens when cops keep the cameras off as they stop and frisk someone or get into a violent confrontation? NBC 10 investigative reporter Claudia Vargas found some troubling examples of Philadelphia police not using their body cameras as intended.
More than 1/3 of the Philly police force use body cameras, and the police commissioner wants to buy more. But we obtained a memo sent to Philly PD last year that outlines big flaws with their body camera program. That sound was the 8th baton blow to Juan Torres as he tried to evade police officers. The scene is captured on cell phone video and on surveillance cameras. The one place it wasn't captured on was the officers' body cameras.
The officers feel so free to turn them on and off whenever they want.
For his part, the arresting officer says he couldn't activate the camera because it got knocked off during the arrest. But Michael Mellon, a public defender, says the Torres case is an example of a widespread problem.
We found that very few times were they following protocol, and there were numerous people that they were not documenting in their paperwork that they were stopping and searching.
The Defender Association sent this memo to the PPD over what it says is the misuse of body cameras. The report focused on 60 cases in the 24th Police District in Port Richmond. The Defender dug into that district because of what it calls a pattern of complaints and unreliable testimony from officers. Some of the Defender's findings included no body camera video captured prior to a person being handcuffed, no paper trail to accompany the detainment of individuals, and at least one officer backed away and turned off his camera while another officer stomped a man. Philly PD declined to discuss the cases outlined in the memo.
I can't speak to that in specifics because to the point of an earlier question you asked, that is under internal affairs investigation.
It's unclear if the officers named in the Defender's report faced any discipline. According to the department's body camera policy, if police officers do not record events they're supposed to record, they will be subject to disciplinary action.
You know, I wish I could tell you that every officer follows every policy all the time. It might be a stretch, and I don't have data. The point is I don't have data to support whether there's an egregious abuse of this policy or egregious failure to follow this policy.
Per the PPD's policy, cameras should be on when responding to a crime, when initiating any pursuit, when conducting any vehicle or pedestrian investigation, when initiating an arrest, when handling any protest or demonstration, and other instances. But even in cases when police officers do keep their cameras on, they may not be saving the video. It's an issue District Attorney Larry Krasner says keeps popping up.
And in order for us to be able to use the body-worn camera, which may be very supportive of everything they're saying, we have to be able to locate it.
At the end of their shifts, cops are supposed to place their cameras on a docking station. That automatically uploads all video content to a cloud system. If the video is not tagged or bookmarked for review, it will be deleted 60 days later. That means the DA or the Defender Association may never get access to some evidence.
When we go to trial and everybody knows that there was a body-worn camera, but we don't have it to present at trial, it all by itself, that can create a reasonable doubt. It can make it very hard for us to win a case.
Philadelphia used to keep all body cam video for at least 75 days, which lawyers say wasn't long enough. But the department changed its policy last year to 60 days. They say it's to match state law. Some departments, though, such as SEPTA, keep all video for at least 1 year. The other problem with Philly PD's body camera program is the lack of independent review and auditing. Philly PD doesn't have any full-time people dedicated to body cameras. Any oversight is left to district supervisors.
Not a specialized unit specifically to check from a high altitude, everybody's using it. It's still, again, to each command.
Keener Bruce says that any body camera footage that captures use of force by an officer is sent to Internal Affairs for review. He also says that defense lawyers can request footage and therefore provide some independent review. Critics say there should be independent oversight of the body camera footage, but the biggest thing that activists, experts, defense attorneys, and the district attorney agreed on is discipline. They say without discipline, officers have no reason to turn on those cameras. For the investigators, I'm Claudia Vargas, NBC 10 News.
Police body-worn cameras have been touted as tools for transparency and accountability, but police reform advocates say the current laws make it difficult for the public to obtain body camera video.
NBC 10 investigative reporter Claudia Vargas finds out how the public can see what police officers do before and during an encounter.
Snippets of news stories and protester cell phone video capture disturbing scenes, violent clashes between protesters and police. But police body-worn camera video could show unedited and lengthier versions of such encounters. That's why Police Advisory Commission Executive Director Hans Menos and others want to see those videos.
And I think that we're at a point in 2020 where transparency is key, and direct access is what some of the most transparent police departments offer to their oversight commissions.
Philadelphia's Police Advisory Commission is the civilian oversight board of the police department. But unlike similar entities in other cities, it has little power, including access to body camera footage.
If the police department, at its discretion, determines that we are allowed to see video, we have to see it on their properties.
Some cities, such as Chicago, give their police oversight boards direct access to body camera video.
The reality is, the problem with policing in Philadelphia boils down not just to the high-profile incidents of violence, but also to the everyday interactions that can either bolster or degrade the police department's reputation.
Philly Police spokesman Inspector Sekou Kennebrew says the department is figuring out how to best balance transparency while following state law.
What's not only reasonable, but also what can be done, what's possible given the limitations and the finite resources that we have.
Regular citizens have to fill out a special state form to access body camera footage. But Philly PD stats show that barely anyone is asking for it. In 2019, only one request was made, and it was denied due to the incident being under investigation. The 5 requests made in 2020 so far are all pending. Democrat State Representative Dan Miller says the law behind the state form makes it nearly impossible for citizens to access body camera footage.
When it comes to the vast majority of footage that is filmed off of taxpayer-supported cameras in anywhere, I think that you have to, the point should be, the default should be that that's open to the public.
Miller has been trying to change the law. He introduced a bill that would in part lengthen the time period the public can request body camera footage from 60 to 180 days. His bill would also make the requirements of the request itself less stringent and increase access. But in a Republican majority legislature, he has not had any luck.
Without the public pushing for reform on some of these matters, no, I have no faith that these issues or things like them will be addressed.
Miller's bill is stuck in the State House Judiciary Committee and is not scheduled for a hearing. The committee's chair, Republican Representative Robert Kaufman, declined an interview to explain why. We spoke with Representative Martina White, a Republican from Northeast Philadelphia, about Republicans' apprehension to Miller's bill. She is not on the Judiciary Committee, but is familiar with the bill.
The focus is right now is trying to find a way to make these, body cameras and the footage more readily available, and then also able to be held and stored. But obviously, there's always a cost involved in that.
She and other legislators don't want to give departments a mandate they can't afford. White says body camera video should be released following controversial events, but she wouldn't say whether the video from the recent protest falls under her release criteria.
I don't think people need to be watching every waking moment of an officer's on-duty experience.
If the state doesn't address body camera footage, Philadelphia Councilman Curtis Jones says City Council will.
At the end of the day, the citizens have a right to that footage, and if it requires additional legislation, we're up for the task.
Jones didn't offer specifics as to what council could actually do. He says policies around the release of body camera footage need to be carefully thought out.
How do we provide total transparency without causing harm to witnesses and bystanders?
Jones plans to hold a hearing next month to discuss the police response to the protests. As part of that hearing, he will be requesting body camera footage. For the investigators, I'm Claudia Vargas, NBC 10 News.